doing a wrap up. It is very hot, so I have my fan going and I hope it's not too loud. It's kind of far away, so I'm hoping that it's not too bad and it's lower, but I'm like sweating like crazy, so you know, but this is me and this is how this video is gonna go. I read 12 books this month. I did like DNF 2 additional books. One I probably won't read again, and that was Crash by Nicole Williams. I just wasn't feeling it. And the other was Stray by Rachel Vincent, and that one felt more like I'm not feeling it right now. I also ended up reading a lot of ebooks this month. I got a New York Public Library card this month. So if you live in New York State, you can get a library card to the New York Public Library. You just apply online, and then when they send it to you, you have to send them proof of residency in New York State, and then they will approve it, and that gives me access to their digital collection. And while my local county library system is great, it is oftentimes missing some of the books I want to read. So the New York Public Library has a ton more options. And the first book I read was Say Yes. I think it's Marquise or something, but I say I don't know what I say in my head. I don't know. Marquis, I believe is the French, but this is English. Whatever. This is the cover by Tessa Dare, and this is in the Castles Ever After series. And I gave this one, okay, it says I gave it 4 stars, but I think I give it 3. It was a perfectly good book, but it's not as good as the other books in the series. I read Fire Study by Maria V. Snyder, which is the 3rd book in the study series, and this is the final book in like the original trilogy before it turned into like more books. I gave it 5 stars. I think Poison Study is still my favorite in the whole series, but I really do enjoy these books and this series as a whole. I love Yelena so much, and I'm so scared to keep reading because what if they're not as good? But I'm very happy with how this ended, and I have enjoyed my time with the series. I also read Power Study and Ice Study, which I gave 4 stars to both of those. They're like short little stories that you can read on Maria V. Snyder's website, and I enjoyed both of them as well. And I think if you enjoy the series, you would enjoy them. They don't really add like a ton to the series, but they're definitely good, solid short stories. And then I read When the Scot Ties the Knot, which is this one, which is also from the Castles Ever After series. It's the 3rd and I believe final book in the series, and I gave this one 4 stars. I liked this one better than Say Yes to Them, whatever. The first one, Romancing the Duke, is still my favorite, but this one was really cute and enjoyable. A young woman who, when she's like a teenager, doesn't want to be like launched into society for her season, so she makes up a suitor, and like the love of her life, but he's in the military, so he can't possibly meet her family, and then she ends up killing him off so that she doesn't have to like keep up this ruse, and like she writes him letters and she posts them, but like whatever, and she just made up the name and title, like the rank, that's the word. And then one day she inherits a castle, which is the whole point of all these books, and in addition to that, this Scottish guy shows up saying that he is the person she's been writing to, and he obviously knows it's fake too. Like, her letters are basically a diary almost, and he's like, but you said you would marry me, so we're getting married. And it's funny, but it's touching. I like it. I like Tessa Dare a lot. Sweet Filthy Boy by Christina Lauren, and I gave this 4 stars. That was like what I gave most of the books this month, was 4 stars. This was my first Christina Lauren book. It's the first book in the Wild Seasons series trilogy. Unsure how many books. It's kind of short. It was pretty cute. Maybe a teensy bit too much sex, but overall it was a cute story. It's about a group of 3 friends who graduate from college, and they decide to go to Las Vegas just to have like fun before they like go off into adulthood. and all three of them they meet three guys who are a group of friends who are in Vegas as well, and they end up all getting married that night, like getting drunk and getting married, and two of them decide to immediately like annul the marriage, and then the hero and heroine of this story decide to keep the marriage and kind of see if it'll work. And the hero is from France, so the heroine like follows him to France and to see like what all of that looks like and all that. So it's their story. My favorite thing is that the hero is just like a very sweet guy, and I've just been really into reading about nice sweet guys, so it was nice to see that. And I would read the other books in the series, I'm just not feeling the need to read them immediately. And then I read Everything by Nicola Yoon, and I have been on a hold for this book for like a month and a half, 2 months before I was able to read it, and I think unfortunately that kind of hurt my reading of it, that and like the hype and everything. I did give it 4 stars, I did really enjoy it, I would like to see the movie at some point, I'm sure it will make me cry, and for that reason I will avoid watching it until the time comes that I feel that I'm emotionally stable enough to handle it. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought the writing was interesting. I haven't honestly watched a lot of like reviews, like in-depth reviews about this, so I didn't know that the writing was a little different. Like the chapters are very short and are often not just words, they're like pictures and diagrams and everything, and I enjoyed that. I like when authors do things like that, and it helps keep the pace going, which is enjoyable. I liked the characters. I definitely liked their relationships. Like Maddie has all of these relationships with people even though she's so secluded, and so I loved reading about her relationship with her mom and her nurse and everything. So I did enjoy it, but I didn't think it was like the best book I've ever read in my life. That being said, I would totally read another Nicola Yoon book at some point in my future, and I certainly appreciated the diversity in here, not just racially, but looking at like physical health and mental health and so many different kinds of diversity that were in here. And then I read Written in Red by Anne Bishop, which is the first book in the Others series, I believe is what it's called. And this I gave 4 stars. I really did enjoy this. I just can't bring myself to give it 5 stars. The thing about I don't read a ton of fantasy or a ton of sci-fi, especially like adult fantasy. Like I'll read a fair amount of young adult fantasy, but it's usually the kind of fantasy that has like a strong romantic element or something like that. Most of the time when I do read books like that, I enjoy them. It's just they tend to be kind of intimidating for me, or they have a lot of like characters they're following, and I'm just not a huge fan of that style of story. This book is like that. It does follow like multiple plot lines, multiple characters in multiple places and everything, but it still worked for me. And I said in my review of this, like I had done a written review, I said that this book slowly worked its way under my skin, and that is true. So initially when I picked it up, I was kind of just reading it, you know, just like, okay, this is a book I'm reading it, it's okay, like whatever. And then slowly over time I realized that I like wanted to pick it up. Reading is kind of a reward for me. Like I'll do certain tasks I have to get done, and then I read for like 15 or 20 minutes, and sometimes I'm really motivated to do those tasks because I'm specifically excited to read the book I'm reading, and other times I'm more like, this task that could take me 30 minutes will take me an hour and a half because I'm not that motivated. But this really got under my skin and pulled me in, and I started to care about it, and I'm very excited to keep reading it. I'm gonna try and like ration them because the series isn't complete yet, so I'm gonna try and like do it slowly. Who knows if that'll really happen. I do already have the second book on ebook. I had to get a hold on it through my library, but it has come in, so that's exciting. And this is about a woman who, she's a blood prophet, so every time she like cuts herself, she sees prophecies and things, so trigger warning for like self-harm and mutilation, absolutely. And she escapes people who are using her and ends up in this I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like a little community with these people called the others. So there's humans and then there's others, and the others are kind of like your paranormal creatures that you're used to, maybe your vampires, your werewolves, other kinds of shifters and elemental creatures and other things that we haven't really figured out what they are yet. And it follows the story of that group of people interacting with humans. It's kind of like an alternate reality Earth situation, and there's a lot going on, and it's very interesting. I don't know, I feel like I'm not describing any of these books, but a really good story, and it was very compelling. And then I read Irresistibly Yours by Lauren Lane, and this is the first book in her Oxford series, and I read a few Lauren Lane books before. I gave this one 4 stars. I think it's my favorite one I have read by her, and this reminded me a lot of a Julie James book. Just like, it's kind of youngish professionals, it's a contemporary romance, who are very good at their job, so certainly some confidence porn, as Sarah Wendell would call it. Not quite to the extent of Julie James, but similar. And there's tons of like sequel bait and earlier book couples, which I'm a huge fan of that in my romances. This one in particular is the start of the Oxford series, which actually follows another series that she has written that takes place at like a Cosmo type magazine, I believe. I haven't read any of those, but I do plan on doing that soon because the New York Public Library has them. So it is about a guy who's been working as a freelancer for this magazine called Oxford, which I think is kind of like GQ. I don't know, I've never read GQ, but on my ideas of what GQ is, this is similar. And they want to have more of a sports section, and so he's applying to be the editor for the sports section. But then he ends up competing with another sports editor, like another sports writer, and it's a woman named Penelope Pope, which is like the best name ever. And there's the romance there. And it's really kind of like a friends to lovers story, and I think maybe that's why it reminds me of Julie James, because she has a similar story where it's two people like fighting for a position. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I did really enjoy it. It was a little surface-y, but overall it was a pretty solid story. And like I said, it's my favorite Lauren Lane book so far, and I'm really enjoying her writing. There's something about it that really grips me. And then I read Bloodbow by J.R. Ward, and this is the second book in the Black Dagger Legacy series, which is like a spin-off series to the Black Dagger Brotherhood, and I would highly suggest not reading it independently of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, but I mean, you do what you do. I gave this 3 stars. I enjoyed it enough, but it's definitely not my favorite book ever. The romance, there's 2 main storylines. One is like kind of the new romance with these new recruits. It's paranormal with vampires. Story I was kind of on, but it does follow Rage and Mary from the Black Dagger Brotherhood. This comes after The Beast, which was one of the more recent books, and I was definitely more invested in their story, which made this more enjoyable. But at the same time, I've been invested in their story for like 10-15 books now, so it's really not that hard to get me invested versus like new characters. So, you know, it was good, but could have been better. And then I read Rule by Jay Crownover, which is the first book in the Marked Men series, I believe is what it's called. And I gave this 3 stars. This is like new adult. I have never read a book by Jay Crownover, and I might read a book by her again in the future. This was a perfectly okay book. It was kind of what I expected it to be, where you have this like alpha male who's like, which I'm just feeling intrigued by characters like that less and less and less, especially in a contemporary setting. Historicals, I'm like a little more open to it, but for contemporaries, they just need to, you know, it wasn't anything special to me, and I don't feel drawn to read the other books. There's definitely sequel bait, like I can see the sequel bait, it just didn't hook me. I can see why people who like angsty stories with tattooed bad guys and stuff, or bad boys, would be interested in this. And then the last book I read, which actually I listened to, is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. Oh my gosh. I have no idea how many times I have read this story. I actually started listening to it. I've listened to it throughout most of the month. I read this on my Nook, but I've been trying to go more towards like a Kindle because I just don't have faith that the Nook store will be around, which makes me sad because I own hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of Nook books, and I don't know what that'll mean if it shuts down. So I slowly, like, as I can, try to like migrate, like buy things on Kindle, and Addicted to You is, I believe it's still free. So I went to buy it like months ago, buy it for Kindle, and you can add audible narration for like $1.99, and I had accidentally hit that button. So I had audible narration, and I decided to listen to it. And I think I was just really excited for Damaged Like Us to come out, so like, let me listen to Addicted to You, brr. I did give this 4 stars, just like always. It's a good story. I listened to the audiobook and I enjoyed it. It's my first fiction audiobook, I believe. And it was easy because I had already read it, so I know the story and everything. I don't particularly like the choices the narrator made for like Lily and Lauren's voices, but I kind of got used to it as the story went on. Addicted to You, I have talked about it before. So those are all of the books I read this month. I am currently reading Haunted, which is the 5th Mediator book. I just got distracted by all my other books, but I will honestly probably finish this in the next day or two and everything, because these are really quick reads and I am enjoying it. Other than that, those are the books that I read. I'm very excited with my reading month. It was a busy month for me, so to have read 12 books is great, and I am excited to keep reading. And if you have any questions or comments about the books that I talked about, feel free to leave them down below. I know I didn't really go into a ton of detail, so you may have questions. Or if you want to recommend any books or tell me what you read this month, that would be great as well. Thank you so much for watching.